I think last week Sanjay Prabhu read Isopanishad Mantra 17. So these are just prayers made by the devotees to the Lord. Hare Krishna. So intermediate class devotees, please turn on your videos. Okay. And let me share the screen. First, we will learn to sing the verse, practice it, and then we'll go on to translation. Okay. I hope everybody sees it clearly. Jai. अग्नेनया सुप सु, सुपताराय अस्मान् विश्वानि देव वायुनानि विद्वान् योऽधि अस्मात् जुहुरानमिनो भूयिष्ठामते नाम युक्तिं विदेम अग्नेनया सुपथाराय अस्मान् विश्वानि देव वायुनानि विद्वान् युयोधि अस्मात् जुहुरानमिनो भूयिष्ठामते नाम युक्तिं विदेम अग्नेनया सुपथाराय अस्मान् विश्वानि देव वायुनानि विद्वान् योऽधि अस्मात् जुहुरानमिनो भूयिष्ठामते नाम युक्तिं विदेम अग्नेनया सुपथाराय अस्मान् विश्वानि देव वायुनानि विद्वान् योऽधि अस्मात् जुहुरानमिनो भूयिष्ठामते नाम yuktim videma. So it's the same meter as WECAN. So okay, maybe we'll start with who's there? Divansh Mataji. Let's see. Hare Krishna. I think no one from the internet class is there, I suppose. I saw Parth Prabhu logging in. Not sure. I think I lost him probably. Okay, I think I will recite one more time, and then we'll continue with the rest of the verse. Agnenaya supata raye ashman vishwani deva vayunani vidvan yayodhi asmad juhuranam nino bhuishtamate nama yuktim videma. For what word synonyms, translation, and purport, Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada Ji ki jai. Hare Krishna. So, Agni, O my Lord, as powerful as fire. Naya, kindly lead. Supatha, by the right path. Rai, for reaching you. Asman, us. Vishwani, all. Deva, O my Lord. Vayunani, actions. Vidwan, the knower. Yodhi, kindly remove. Asmat, from us. Juhuranam, all hindrances on the path. Enaha, all vices. Bhuhishtam, most numerous. Te, unto you. Namaha yuktim, words of obeisance. Vidhema, I do. So, O my Lord, as powerful as fire, kindly lead by the right path for reaching you. Us all, O my Lord, actions, the knower, kindly remove from us all hindrances on the path, all vices, most numerous. Unto you, words of obeisance I do. So here, as I said, so this is the actually prayer, sung by the devotee to the Lord. So here, as we can clearly understand, even from the word synonyms, the devotee is praying to the Lord, and the Lord is compared here as powerful as a fire, and he's requesting Lord to actually lead us to the right path, on the right path, so they can reach the Lord. And second line, Vishwani Deva Vayunani Vidwan. So here uh, he actually accepts that Lord, he knows all the actions, performed by the devotees, as he's the all is Vidwan, is knower. And then they're requesting, kindly remove from us Yodi Ashmaj Juhurana Mino. Kindly remove from us all the hindrances on the path, all vices. So all the actually hurdles on the path of this devotion, they're actually asking to remove. So which are the results of all the sinful activities, actually committed by the living entity, here the devotee. And then Bhuishtamate Nama Yuktim Videma. So Srila Prabhupada translates that as actually, uh, please free me from reactions to my past sins so that there will be no hindrance to my progress. So, and he is actually offering the actually all obeisances, Bhuishtam and Tena Muktim Videma, offering obeisances to the Lord, who is the omnipotent, all powerful. So, translation, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O my Lord, as powerful as fire, O omnipotent one, now I offer you all obeisances, falling on the ground at your feet. O my Lord, please lead me on a right path to reach you. And since you know all that I have done in the past, please free me from the reactions to my past sins, so that there will be no hindrance to my progress. I'll read one more time. O my Lord, as powerful as fire, O omnipotent one, now I offer you all obeisances, falling on the ground at your feet. O my Lord, please lead me on the right path to reach you. And since you know all that I have done in the past, please free me from the reactions to my past sins, so that there will be no hindrance to my progress. So here, actually, Lord Krishna is compared as powerful as a fire. So fire, it burns down everything. And Lord is omnipotent; He's all powerful. So here, the actually devotee, he's offering obeisances, at the lotus feet of the Lord, and actually praying to the Lord to lead him on a right path, so he can actually reach Sri Krishna. And he also accepts that Lord Krishna knows all that we have done, in the past. So there is a prayer again to please free me from the reaction to my past sins. So as we have committed various actions in the past, maybe in the past life as well, so there will be reactions to all those sinful reactions. So that can actually become a hindrance on this path of devotion. So we may actually experience various difficulties, and we have to struggle a lot. So prayer is actually made to the Lord to kindly remove, those reaction to the past sins. So there will be no hindrance on this path, So devotees can actually progress nicely. So this is quite intimate prayer made to the Lord. So we'll continue. I think we'll start with the purport now. I think these points are clearly explained very nicely by Srila Prabhupada in the purport. So as we read, we can actually explain those points. Okay. Purport. By surrendering to the Lord and praying for His causeless mercy, the devotee can progress on the path of complete self realization. The Lord is addressed as a fire because he can burn anything into ashes, including the sins of a surrender soul. Uh, as described in previous mantras, the real or ultimate aspect of the Absolute is his feature as the personality of Godhead, and his impersonal Brahmajyotir feature is a dazzling covering over his face. Pretty activities or the Karmakand path of self realization is the lowest stage in this endeavor. As soon as such activities even slightly deviate from the regulative principle of Vedas, they are transformed into vikarm or acts against the interests of the actor. Such vikarm is enacted by the illusioned living entity simply for sense gratification, and thus such activities become hindrances on the path of self realization. So, here in the first paragraph, Srila Prabhupada, the first statement made it very, very clear that by surrendering unto the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna and actually offering prayer for his extreme causeless mercy, the devotee can make a progress on the path of complete self realization. So, here the first statement actually is the very important one, where actually the actual solution is given. So this is actually the quite a rapid path to the actually ultimate realization that by actually taking shelter of the Lord and surrendering completely, without any material motives at his lotus feet and praying him for his causeless mercy, he can obtain the grace of the Lord, and actually devotee can make a very fast progress on the path of devotional service. So next, actually, Lord, as he actually compared Agnenaya, is compared here as a compared to the fire. As fire can burn anything to ashes, Lord can also burn anything, including the sins of a surrender soul. So this is also clearly explained in Bhagavad Gita. It's a very important verse, chapter 18, verse 66, where it says that Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharnam Raja Aham Tam Sarva Papebhyo Moksha Ishami Masuchaha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. So here is actually the actually declaration, by the Lord Himself in Bhagavad Gita that actually, if we actually abandon all varieties of religion, and if we surrender actually sincerely unto Him, then actually Krishna can actually deliver us from all our sinful reactions from the past, and we do not have to fear. So the assurance is given. So the same statement is being discussed here that actually for a surrender soul, the Krishna can actually take care of the sins of the past sins of the devotees. But the actually one has to be very, very sincere. And there should not be any material motive in the surrender, and has to actually even you cannot actually approach Krishna directly. You have to go through the Guru Shishya Parampara. So as long as we actually be following the orders of the spiritual master and the instruction given in Bhagavad Gita, and if we are able to surrender, then this ultimate actually goal of actually complete self-realization can be achieved, with the grace of the Lord. And here, Srila Prabhupada says that in previous mantra, as we have discussed, the actually various aspects of absolute truth. So here it says that impersonal Brahma Jyotir, is just a dazzling effulgence. So previous verses, 2 verses, we have actually discussed that in detail. The Hiren Mayan Patrena, and actually devotees are praying to remove that actually dazzling covering from his face, so they can actually see Krishna, face to face. So that is actually the impersonal feature of a Brahma Jyotir. But Srila Prabhupada says that the real ultimate aspect of the Absolute is his a feature as a personality of Godhead, the Bhagwan realization. So that is the actually ultimate and complete realization. And the next actually part here, Srila Prabhupada is talking about the Pruti activities or Karam-Kand process of self-realization, which Srila Prabhupada calls it as a lowest stage in this endeavor. And so there are various paths that actually lead to Lord Krishna, and in Vedas, actually various processes are given. So as we know, the Vedas are actually they're divided into Karam Kand, Jnana Kand, Upasana Kand, these sections. And actually, one can make a gradual progress, because as we know, that Vedas are actually meant to actually elevate the conditioned soul slowly to the transcendental platform, where once they achieve that platform, then they can actually begin their actual devotional service. So that is the purpose of the Vedas. So the Karmakand section, or the fruitive activities, is called the lowest stage in this endeavor. Then there is come to Jnanakant, the philosophical speculation, or even the impersonalized philosophy. And then there is Upasana Kant. There's also involved actually worship of various demigods, And finally, that will lead to the final conclusion is the worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here, is as soon as the such activities even slightly deviate from the regulative principle of Vedas, they are transformed into vikarma and acts against the interests of the actor. Such vikarma is enacted by the illusion living entity simply for sense gratification, and thus such activities become hindrances on the path of self-realization. So, talking here about a karma kand section of the Vedas, So, as we know that actually uh, uh, many actually living entities are actually what we call karmis. They are very much interested into karma kand process. Because the ultimate object is to actually have a higher standard of actually living, so they can enjoy. So there is again this material motive, so they can actually enjoy more. So they want to actually elevate themselves to the higher planetary system, like a Swargalok, where they have the actually facilities for better sense gratification. So in order to actually achieve that, actually prescription given in the Vedas, they have to actually follow the actually injunction given in the Vedas. There is a regulatory principle. So one thing is actually the sacrifices. They have to perform a certain sacrifices. And Srila Prabhupada, we won't go into detail. So while performing sacrifices, obviously they need qualified brahmanas. But whoever is actually performing that, if these regulatory principle, if they deviate from the regulatory principles, uh, actually given in the Vedas, they can actually transform into so vikarm is actually bad karma, and it can actually act against the interest of the actor. And such vikarm enacted by the living entities, conditioned living entities, for sense gratification, they can become a hindrance on the path of self-realization. So while actually try to actually elevate themselves, to the higher planetary system, so they can enjoy. So for just for the sense gratification, if they do not follow the principles properly, it can actually act against them by turning into vikarma. So as we know that there is always a reaction to every action. So as soon as we have actually vikarma in our account, then we have to suffer accordingly. So those vikarm can come as actually quite a big obstacles, even if you actually later want to actually progress on a path of devotion. So that we also experience. Even we actually myself and also experiencing. We came across various actually difficulties. Even if we want to actually focus in a devotional service. So there is always things that happen that actually distract us or disfocus from this path. So this is a point actually raised here by Srila Prabhupada, that we have to be very careful, to actually even someone want to actually go through this karma kand process, so that can actually become obstacle on this path of self realization. Okay, Hare Krishna, Parth Prabhu, can you hear us?
Yes, bro.
Okay, so we have just Prabhuji started on the purport now. Do you want to actually read the purport as we go? I think you are the only one here from the intermediate class today.
Sure, sure, Prabhu.
So we are actually here as a self-realization.
Okay, Prabhu, thank you. Hare Krishna. Self-realization is possible in the human form of life, but not in other forms. There are 8,400,000 species or forms of life, of which the human form, qualified by Brahminical culture, presents the only chance to obtain knowledge of transcendence. Brahminical culture includes truthfulness, sense control, forbearance, simplicity, full knowledge, and full faith in God. It is not that one simply becomes proud of his high parentage. Just as being born the son of a big man affords one a chance to become a big man, so being born the son of a Brahmana gives one a chance to become a Brahman. But such a birthright is not everything, for one still has to attain the Brahminical qualifications for himself. As soon as one becomes proud of his birth as the son of a Brahmana and neglects to acquire the qualifications of a real Brahmana, he at once becomes degraded and falls from the path of self realization. Thus, his life's mission as a human being is defeated.
Okay. So here, Srila Prabhupada is saying that self-realization is only possible in a human form of life. So this is actually base chance. So there are 8.4 million species of life, as we actually previously studied. And it is a lot of information is also given in Bhagavad Gita. That actually one has to actually go through 8.4 million species of life to actually come to the platform of human form of life. So it's a very long route. So slowly, actually if you are in actually animal kingdom, then you have to gradually you have to make a progression into the higher form of life, and to ultimately reach is the human form. So one has to suffer quite a lot, and once you actually attain the human form, then it is very responsible position. The human form is responsible because in the human form we have been given an intelligence, and with this actually intelligence, we can actually able to read and understand this Vedic literature, and we also have ability to introspect. So by using these qualities of this human form of life, one can actually make a progress, and one can actually inquire about the absolute truth. As Srila Prabhupada always says, the ultimate, the object of the human life is to actually inquire about the supreme absolute truth. Aham Brahmasmi. So that is actually real purpose. And Srila Prabhupada says that even after attaining a human form of a life, uh, and in Bhagavad Gita says that there are about 420,000 different species of human forms. So the different level of consciousness. So one has to actually attain the Brahminical qualities. One has to become a Brahmana. And here, Srila Prabhupada has given the actually the qualities of the Brahmanas, which include truthfulness. One has to become very truthful, sense control. One has to actually learn to actually control their senses. So there is a tapasya. But Srila, as we know, that actually the senses can be best controlled only by actually engaging them in the service of the Lord. Artificial control, you can only do it for such a certain, maybe to the certain extent, and there is always a chance of fall down because senses are actually very strong, being actually controlled by the mind, which is actually called sixth sense, which is very chanchal, and is very hard to control as well. So artificial control is very difficult. So that's why Srila Prabhupada always, actually mentioned this point in his many lectures, that we can control the senses by engaging them in the service of the Lord. So some engagement is required. So by engaging them in the service of the Lord, we can purify them, right? So that's a sense control. Then forbearance, tolerance. So this is one of the important actually quality or guna, one must have, that he has to tolerate. Once you are in this actually material world, you have to actually it has to face a lot of different difficulties. So one has to become tolerant, uh, and actually one has to also tolerate on this path of devotion as well. Even actually preaching, we know that actually we come across various difficulties. So one has to actually tolerate, and actually this is actually forbearance. And then simplicity, one has to become very simple, simplistic lifestyle, as Srila Prabhupada said, that simple living and high thinking. So is these points, when we studied nectar of instruction, and full knowledge and full faith in God. So the full knowledge that can be obtained, so Brahmana, Brahmana, uh, in actually once you actually want to become Brahmana, so these are the actually qualities of the Brahmanas, Patan, Patan, Titiksha, so Patan, Patan, one has to actually study, meditate and understand the instruction of the Vedas, Shrimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. and thus actually, when one takes the actually shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and actually gain this knowledge, and with the actually in a right association and a sadhu sang, and by actually shravan and kirtan, he can actually develop a full faith in the Lord, in supreme personality of Godhead, that is Sri Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada says that Brahminical culture include truthfulness, sense control, forbearance, simplicity, full knowledge, and full faith in God. It is not that one simply become a proud of his high parentage. So Srila Prabhupada here talking on this point that uh, that some people think that by just taking birth in a Brahminical family, you cannot really become a Brahmana. You know, just like if one takes birth in a actually wealthiest, aristocratic family, he cannot really become actually wealthy aristocratic straight away. But it gives them a better chance. So if you're born in the family of Brahmana, then obviously you will have the opportunity to get the training right from the very young age. You can be trained in the practices of a devotional service. So there is actually a better chance is given to that actually soul. And if he actually use that opportunity and actually acquire the Brahminical qualities, then it will actually help him to actually progress very fast, on this path of devotion. But if one fails to actually attain or actually neglect to acquire this qualification of a real Brahmana, Srila Prabhupada says that he at once becomes degraded and falls upon the path of self-realization. Thus, his life's mission as a human being is defeated. So this is very important that actually, if you actually get this actually better chance of being born in the family of actually Brahmana or devotees, or even in the wealthiest person, then we have to actually use those resources, to our best interest. If you actually again get swayed by this actually material world, and all these actually illusions, then actually there is always chance of a fall down.
Okay, Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, can I talk to you? Can I speak now?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, please.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to add one more element to this, because Prabhupada wrote about and we speak about birth in a Brahmana doesn't mean that one becomes a Brahmana. Yeah, that is what you mentioned. Yeah, that is correct. That is what is relevant and important also. But along with what is relevant in today's world is that anybody can become a Brahmana. You see? So qualification of Brahmana is what? That is very important to understand and to at least teach intermediate level devotees. What is the qualification of Brahmana? As you said, Pathan, controls of senses, etc. So anybody can do, provided the person is trained properly, right? And that Prabhupada has said that we are training that through our books and organization. So this is a very important point to be understood and being mentioned with the team.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, it is not a rubber stamp situation. Just like by birth, one becomes a Brahman. So if somebody is wearing a thread, he becomes a Brahman. That is not right. This has to be vehemently opposed. As Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada had vehemently opposed this position. That just by wearing a Brahman thread, being born in a Brahmana, you don't become Brahmana. Similarly, here, by rubber stamping a Brahmana, by somebody giving a thread, he becomes a Brahman and start doing deity worship, so he's a Brahmana. This is vehemently opposed. This is a wrong situation. It's again it's a very dangerous situation that we have come across now in the last 50 years. So this point has to be, whenever we speak, you digest this point and has to be included also in our discussion. Did I explain this point to you, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes.
What do you want to think over at this point?
No, Prabhuji. I think I thought about this, and these points again come further in purport as well.
Yeah, just by somebody getting a Brahman thread, by somebody giving Brahmana, that is not right.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to be sure because I'm hearing, and hopefully if Sanjay Prabhu is also here, he can also. Are you here with us, Prabhuji, Sanjay Prabhu? Sorry, excuse me, Sanjay Prabhu. I'm not trying to take conversation away from your discussion. Just if you can hold this point, this is a very important point.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yes, I'm listening, Prabhuji.
You got this point? Will just come in
Ye-
your vocabulary teaching also as tutors.
Yes, yes, Prabhu.
Like, I cannot tell you that okay, now you're a Brahman, no? Here's a Brahman thread, and here's a mantra. Now you're Brahman, I do it now. So you don't become Brahman like this. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, Prabhuji. It's a qualification. You have to qualify it for it.
That's right. That's right. Otherwise, that is again we have falling into the same trap that by birth somebody is a Brahmana, my father is a Brahmana, so I'm a Brahman also. In the same way, if I make you a Brahman by giving a Brahman thread, giving the mantra, so you're Brahmana. This is wrong.
Is it,
We have gone into a completely wrong trap. But it's a Kali Yuga, so everything is a trap, Okay?
is it the same? Is it the same like you take the admission of MBBS, you not become a doctor, but you are progressing toward it, Prabhuji.
Yeah, that's right. But still, I would. The situation is that for a Brahmana's activities to be performed, it's not an education. After education, you become Brahman. But here, you become by me giving you a thread, you don't become a Brahman.
Yes.
You understand what I'm trying to say? The privileges are open for you suddenly in an institution. The all privileges are open to your deity worship and all those things. But your actions are completely bogus. You still speak bad words. I've seen people speaking bad words, speaking such things.
Yes.
Or there no sense control over things, no studying of the scriptures. Brahmana means thorough understanding of the scriptures. There's a first qualification, Pathan. If you do not understand this Pathan, there is no question of going any further. Pathan is not possible. That's why we say preaching is always done on behalf. We are not qualified because we don't have the Pathan. Both of you understand this point? It's very important. I want to make
Yes,
sure that
Prabhuji.
it
Yes,
should come in
Prabhuji.
our vocabulary. So we should be very vehement in Hare Krishna WECAN, in at least in our preaching, that by birth it is bogus, and even only by qualification it is perfect. By me giving you a Brahman thread and giving you a Brahman Diksha, you don't become Brahman. It's not possible. It is bogus. And we have to vehemently oppose it. Even if I stand alone in this whole world, I'll vehemently oppose this, following the instructions of Srila Bhakti Thakur. Yeah? And Srila Bhakti
Yes.
Thakur. Okay? Order.
Yes,
And
Prabhuji.
you can explain this in your own words. You can explain the same thing to your IDP devotees, and wherever you are preaching, you can speak to your preaching people also. This has to happen. This is our trademark. This Hare Krishna WECAN's trademark. Okay?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And once again, my apologies. I interrupted like this. I thought it was a very important point to be included.
Yes, thank you, Prabhuji. Yeah, so thank you for explaining this point. Okay, so Srila Prabhupada further in the purport that point discussed where Srila Prabhupada mentioned that the omnipotence of the Lord, where Srila Prabhupada says that Lord can make the son of a Brahmana into the dog eater, and he can make a dog eater into the Brahmana. So that is point. The Srila, His Grace Amrish also explained the similar. Even a person born in a lowest family, lowest class family, he can also become a Brahmana, by qualification. So if he follow the injunction given in the Vedas or in Bhagavad Gita also explained this point, Patan Titiksha. So if you acquire this qualification by study and practice, then you ultimately become a Brahman. So thank you, Prabhuji, for explaining this point. Okay, we'll progress further. Let me share the screen. Right. 1 minute. Cursor is not. Okay.
In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, shloka 41 to 42, we are assured by the Lord that the yoga brishtas, or souls fallen from the path of self-realization, are given a chance to rectify themselves by taking birth either in the families of good brahmanas or in the families of rich merchants. Such births afford higher chances for self-realization. If these chances are misused due to illusion, one loses the good opportunity of human life afforded by the Almighty Lord.
Yes, so here the same point actually, Srila Prabhupada gives the reference to Bhagavad Gita, verse chapter 6, verse 41. So it is clearly explained by the Lord in Bhagavad Gita as well, where it is said that actually the unsuccessful yogi, after many years of enjoyment on the planets of a pious living entities, is born into the family of a righteous people or into the family of rich aristocracy. Unsuccessful yogis, so they can be actually, one can be fall down after short practice of this actually yogic process, or one can be fall down after a long practice of yoga. So Srila Prabhupada actually nicely explained in that purport that actually one who actually falls after a short period of practice goes to the higher planetary system, where pious living entity are actually there, and they can enjoy into the higher planetary system for a very long time, and then after their pious activities are actually exhausted, they have to again come down to the uh, middle planetary system. They have to take a birth, and the chances given there by actually giving the birth in the family of brahmanas, righteous brahmanas, or into aristocratic merchants, or wealthy families. So actually the similar point as we just discussed, so this is not actually achieved, by chance, so there is always actually the actually activities that we perform in the past lives. If you have done actually some devotional service in the past life, then there is always a benefit. So in Bhagavad Gita, it is mentioned, Ananyasa Chintayanto Mam. Sorry, not that one. Sorry, I mentioned the wrong one. Where it is said that actually, if one make actually even a small progress on the path of self-realization, so it can even actually protect them from a greatest danger. So that is actually falling down to the lower spaces of life. So नेहाभिक्रम नाशोस्ति प्रत्यवायोन्य विद्यते स्वल्पम अपि यस्य धर्मस्य त्रायते महतो भया. So that is a verse that actually by making even a small progress, so even if you actually progress from point A to point B, so that can first, it will save you from degradation to the lower spaces of life, and in the next life, you can start from the point B, where you actually finish in your previous life. You don't have to again start from the point A. So you continue your devotional service. So that's why you've been given in the next life the chance. So you're born in a family of Brahmana. So obviously you will have a very nice actually association of actually devotees, of the Brahmanas. So ultimately you've been actually will be trained nicely from a very young age. And if you actually train in a young age, though, so that's increased the possibility, that actually you will develop a brahminical qualities, and ultimately you will actually continue your devotional service. So there is a better facilities actually given. Even if you are born in the actually rich aristocratic family, then you will have all the wealth. So actually you don't really have to work very hard like a general mass of people just to make a living. So we experience that. Actually, even actually we want to actually focus more on a devotional service, but everyone has a responsibilities. He has to actually do the actually materialistic jobs to just earn the living. So the time is actually taken away. So one has to struggle a lot. But if you have done some actually pious activities in the previous life or some devotional service, then by taking even in birth of a actually rich merchant or aristocratic family, then you can actually dedicate more time, because all your material needs are already taken care of. So there is again better chance. But Srila Prabhupada always mentioned that point, that actually if you compare the birth in a brahminical families versus a rich aristocratic families, I think birth in a brahminical families is much better. because by taking birth in aristocratic family, there is always a chance that one can actually misuse the facilities, and more actually become attached to the sense enjoyment, and again, fall down. So these are the points actually one has to understand. Okay. Okay, Prabhu, I think we still have 10 minutes. I think we'll go to the next one.
The regulative principles are such that one who follows them is promoted from the platform of fruitive activities to the platform of transcendental knowledge. After many, many lifetimes of cultivating transcendental knowledge, one becomes perfect when he surrenders on to the Lord. This is the general procedure. But one who surrenders at the very beginning, as recommended in this mantra, at once surpasses all preliminary stages simply by avoiding the devotional attitude. Simply by adopting the devotional attitude. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, 18 chapter 66 verse, the Lord at once takes charge of such a surrendered soul and frees him from all the reactions to his sinful acts. There are many sinful reactions involved in Karma Kanda activities, whereas in Jnana Kanda, the path of philosophical development, the number of such sinful activities is smaller. But in devotional service to the Lord, the path of bhakti, there is practically no chance of incurring sinful reactions. Because a devotee of the Lord attains all the good qualifications of the Lord himself. What to speak of those of a Brahmana? A devotee automatically attains the qualifications of an expert Brahmana, authorized to perform sacrifices. Even though the devotee may not have taken his birth in a Brahmana family, such is the omnipotence of the Lord. He can make a man born in a Brahman family as degraded as a low-born dog-eater, and he can also make a low-born dog-eater superior to a qualified Brahmana, simply on the strength of service.
Just a minute. So here, Srila Prabhupada is explaining that the regulative principle, by following regulative principle, one can actually be promoted to platform of fruitive activities and from fruitive activities to the platform of transcendental knowledge. So after many lifetimes of cultivating transcendental knowledge, one become perfect when he surrenders unto the Lord. So this is general procedure. So here actually there is a verse in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse 19. Bahunam janmnam ante jnanvan mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti saham atma sudurlava. So after many births and deaths, he who actually in knowledge surrender unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is, such a great soul is very rare. So here, actually similar points are discussed, where it is said that actually one has to actually go through many births and death. So Srila Prabhupada explained this point very nicely, where he says that sometime one may actually karmi, in his previous life, and he has to actually go, from the karmi stage to the jnani, and from the jnani to the again, then to the actually ultimate the bhakti marg, So even as I previously mentioned, that actually in Vedas these are various actually processes are given. The Vedas is actually divided into karma kand, jnana kand, and then upasana kand. So in a karma kand, Srila Prabhupada says that there are actually there can be a number of actually simple activities. So there is always a chance to actually commit simple activities in karma kand process. So in Karmakand, as I actually explained, the Karmakand process can also actually lead, gradually actually elevate them to the next stage if they actually follow the regulative principles given properly, But actually, at the end of actually Karmakand, they finally understand the next stage, that is a Jnanakand, the cultivation of a knowledge or even the philosophical speculation, So you're speculating, so it actually comes to the point of actually impersonalist Brahman realization, where actually, so there is a realization, so a realization of actually you have the full knowledge, you attain the full knowledge, and there is eternity as well. However, actually, there is no reciprocation or devotional service. So Srila Prabhupada says that you always actually get frustrated at the end. And probably you will realize that actually at the end of a jnana kand, then that will lead to the next stage, that is even the upasana kand. So worship of various demigods. So by worshipping various demigods, you can actually attain to their planets. And even in Bhagavad Gita, it is mentioned that actually even the demigod worship, when you worship demigod, you are indirectly actually worshipping Lord Shri Krishna. So those points has been very nicely discussed in Bhagavad Gita. But ultimately, even at the end of this actually Upasana Kand, one realizes the actually ultimate object is the worship of a supreme personality of Godhead. So that's why it is says that this is a general procedure. One has to go through many births, and deaths. Bahunam janamnam ante jnanvan mam prapadyate. So after going through all those stages, then one actually who's in perfect knowledge, perfect transcendental knowledge, one who understands that actually cause of all causes is actually Lord Shri Krishna, Vasudeva Sarvamiti. And in that full knowledge, then one who surrenders at the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna, that is actually the perfection of a life. And such soul, it is called as very rare. So Srila Prabhupada points out that actually he says that in Karma Kand process, there are many simple reactions are involved. If you do not perform those actually rules and regulations properly, then you're creating a vikarma, as we discussed that in the first paragraph there. And in Jnana Kand, the actually number of simple activities are smaller, as compared to the Karma Kand. But in devotional service, it is said that there is practically no chance of incurring any simple reaction, because devotee of the Lord attain all the good qualification of Lord himself, what to speak of a Brahmana. So when we actually engage in a devotional service, so that point is been discussed and actually in the previously as well, that actually by try to follow this bhakti yoga process, when you try to become a devotee and try to actually follow the injunction of a Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, by practicing actually bhakti yoga process, automatically all the godly qualities they manifest in the devotee as they progress. And that's how the actually devotees become a godly, as same point Srila Prabhupada is actually mentioned here. So you don't have to actually go through this all the long process of going through the Karam Kand, Jnana Kand, and then Upasana Kand, and then come to the actually Bhakti Yoga process. Srila Prabhupada says that a devotee uh, they can actually surrender, immediately. One who surrenders immediately at the lotus feet of the Lord, they can actually they rapidly make a progress, to this ultimate actually self-realization. So this is actually a rapid process on this path, if we actually come to this point. And fortunately, we come in actually in a contact with Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, where we have been actually taught this process directly. Nobody has asked to go through the Karam Kand process or Jnana Kand process or demigod worship. Srila Prabhupada has taught us directly this Bhakti Yoga process. So we are very fortunate that actually we have been actually offered this actually opportunity to learn this actually the loving devotional service. Actually chanting and actually chanting the glories of the Lord. Offering actually rendering the devotional service unto the lotus feet of the Lord. So by actually performing these activities, then we can actually make a progress. And there's another benefit is that there is a Srila Prabhupada saying here is there is practically no chance of incurring any sinful reactions. So if you follow the actually instruction given by your spiritual master, and then actually instruction given in Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, all the Srila Prabhupada books properly, then there is no chance of actually incurring all the sinful reactions. But Bhakti Yoga process is called it's an easy process, but devotees still struggle. Yeah, in one way to look at it is actually it's a quite easier process as compared to the Karma Kand or maybe Jnana Kand, or yogic process. But Bhakti Yoga process, even on this path, actually everyone struggle because we are actually always under the influence of the modes. Plus, we have our actually material motives. We still attached to our senses, and that's why actually we struggle a lot. So that's why it's very important to actually, if we actually follow the instruction properly, if we try to implement them, then actually we get gradually purified, with the grace of the Lord. So even chanting sincerely, actually most of our sins are vanquished. But one has to chant sincerely, without any actually motive, with the full focus, and with the full faith. But to get to that stage is a hard work again. So this is actually one has to realize, and the omnipotence of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada makes this statement here, where he said that he can make a man born in a Brahminical family as degraded as low-born dog eater, or he can make a low-born dog eater superior to a qualified Brahmana simply on the strength of devotional service. So as a being omnipotent, Lord Shri Krishna, yes, he has all the power, all the strength. But actually, here, Krishna means do not want to actually, want to actually become actually degraded, from the Brahminical stage to the low-born dog eater. But that can happen. Actually, even the greatest devotees, they can actually fall down. Even if you actually made a lot of progress on this path of bhakti yoga, one can still fall down. And we have seen many examples. Even the greatest yogis, they can even fall down. Because actually our actually attachment to the senses is still there. So if we actually falter on this path, and again actually come down to the sensual platform, then there is always a chance of fall down. So even the actually wrong association can lead to this. So there are actually many things that we have to actually carefully watch, as we actually attempt to progress on this path. So this actually material energy or Maya that we call is also the energy of the Lord. So he's actually testing us, actually screening us. If we one want to actually make a progress and one want to become a liberated, then we have to actually pass this test. We have to actually pass the test of this actually Maya, or this material illusion. And then once we pass this, then we can actually get to the stage. What we call it is a Brahmabhuta platform. It's basically a liberated stage. But actually one has to very particular, to actually adhere to the instruction given in the Vedas or Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Then actually they can actually make this progress, or there is always a chance of actually fall down. So that's why actually being omnipotent means actually, even as a is a material energy as Maya, actually he's very powerful, Krishna. And by devotional service, one who actually takes shelter, of Lord Shri Krishna, or surrender unto his lotus feet, actually by actually coming through a Guru Shishya Parampara, having a proper mood. If you want render a loving devotional service, so even he's born in a actually low class, maybe what is called is a low born dog eater, he can actually become a actually purified devotee, So we have actually seen many examples, even actually Valmiki, he was a robber, actually, and he actually by just following the process of bhakti yoga, just by chanting the name of Lord Ram, he become actually Valmiki Muni, So there are many examples, that actually transform people, and even practically we have seen actually in today's time as well. You can actually look at ourselves that actually how we were, just by actually try to follow some instruction or try to actually chant some rounds and do some devotional service. We can actually get rid of very obnoxious habits, So there is always a progress. So it's up to us, how sincere we are and how much effort we want to actually invest on this path of actually devotion. Then accordingly, the results will be actually awarded by the Lord. Okay, I think we will conclude this session today here, and we'll continue next week. Anyone has any questions? No, that's fine then. But yeah, please actually post any questions if you still have anything in your mind into our intermediate WhatsApp group. And we still have another week to go, so please do so. Thank you.